Hello everyone, welcome to Concept Wise Learning Hub. Students, have you ever wondered how a shirt reaches you from a cotton farm or how a mobile phone reaches your hand from a manufacturing plant? Behind every product we use, there is a chain of business activity working together. In today's class, we will learn classification of business activity, one of the most important topic in business studies. Let's begin. Business activities are the backbone of every economy. Every business activity can be broadly classified into two categories, industry and commerce. Think on it this way. Industry produces goods. Commerce helps goods to reach consumers. Without industry, there would be no products. Without commerce, products would never reach customer. Both are equally important. Now, let's understand industry. What is industry? Industry refers to activities involved in production, processing, conversion of raw material into useful goods. It creates what we call firm utility. So what is firm utility? When raw materials are converted into useful products, their usefulness increases. For example, cotton is converted into cloth, wood is converted into furniture, milk is converted into cheese. What are the outputs of industry? Industry can produce consumer goods and capital goods. What is consumer goods? Consumer goods are used directly by consumers. For example, bread, clothes and furniture. What is capital goods? Capital goods are used to produce other goods. For example, machines, equipments and tools. So remember, industry is the creation of utility through production. Some of the key characteristics of industries are they use raw materials, labor, capital and technology. They can be small scale or large scale. They can be manufacturing based or service based. Students, industries are classified into three major categories. The first one is primary industry. Primary industries obtain products directly from nature. They provide raw material for other industries. Primary industries is further divided into two, that is extractive industry and genetic industry. Let's understand both. Extractive industry. These industries extract resource from nature. For example, mining coal, petroleum extraction, fishing and forestry. Imagine coal being extracted from mines. That coal later becomes fuel for factories. The next one is genetic industry. These industries deal with breeding plants and animals. For example, poultry farming, dairy farming, plant nurseries. These industries use scientific methods to improve production. In short, extractive industry is taking from nature and genetic industry is growing and breeding. Now let's move to secondary industry. Secondary industries use raw material obtained from primary industries. Their job is to convert raw materials into finished goods. Again, secondary industry is divided into two, that is manufacturing industry and construction industry. Manufacturing industry converts raw material into finished product. For example, cotton into cloth and steel they will make cars and sugarcane is used for making sugar. Students, every product around you has probably passed through a manufacturing process. The next is construction industry. Construction industries create infrastructure. For example, roads, bridges, buildings, dams, railways. Unlike manufacturing, construction products cannot be moved from one place to another. They are built at the site itself. In short, manufacturing equal to movable products and construction equal to immovable structures. Now let's discuss tertiary industry. Tertiary industry do not produce goods. Instead, they provide services. These services support primary and secondary industries. Examples include transportation. Transport means moves goods from one place to another. The next is banking. Banking provides finance and loans. Next is insurance. Insurance protects business from risks. Next is communication. It helps information flow quickly. Imagine a textile company. Without transportation, clothes cannot reach markets. Without banks, funds may not be available for them. Without communication, orders cannot be placed. That is why tertiary industry is essential. Students, let's see the complete chain of the industry with example. The first is primary industry, which provides raw material. For example, cotton farming. We get cotton. The next, this cotton is given to secondary industry. They process the raw material, that is the cotton, into cloth. They process the raw material into finished goods. The next is tertiary industry. It gives supporting services like transport, banking and communication. They transport and sell clothes to customer. This shows how all the industries are interconnected. Let's quickly revise industry. Industry is primarily divided into three categories: primary industry, secondary industry and tertiary industry. Primary industry: extraction and reproduction of natural resources. It supplies raw materials to all other industries. It is classified into two: extractive and generative. Next is secondary. Here the processing and manufacturing of raw materials into finished goods. It creates firm utility. It is classified into two, that is manufacturing and construction. Next is tertiary. It, it is the provision of services that supports primary and secondary industry. It facilitates distribution. For example, transporting, bank, insurance, communication, etc. Now let's move to the second major component of business activity, that is commerce. Commerce refers to activities involved in the distribution and exchange of goods and services. Commerce does not produce goods. Instead, it helps goods reach consumers. Commerce removes several barriers. Barrier 1, that is distance. It is solved through transportation. Second barrier is time. This barrier is solved through warehousing. Third barrier is risk. It is solved through insurance. Barrier 4 is information. It is solved through advertising. Barrier 5 is finance. It is solved through banking. So, we know that industry creates goods and commerce distributes goods. Next topic is components of commerce. Commerce has two main components, that is trade and aids to trade. Let's understand them in depth. Trade: buying and selling of goods and services for profit. Trade transfers ownership from producer to consumers. Types of trade: there are two types of trade, that is internal trade and external trade. Next is aids to trade: supporting activity that makes trade easier. For example, transport, banking, insurance, warehousing, advertisement. Without these activities, trade would become difficult. Now let us discuss about trade in details. Trade refers to the buying and selling of goods and services. Trade is considered the core activity of commerce because it helps to transfer ownership of goods from producer to consumer. For example, when a manufacturer sells product to a wholesaler or when a retailer sells product to customers, trade is taking place. Trade can be broadly classified into two: internal trade and external trade. Internal trade. Internal trade refers to the trade that takes place within the boundary of a country. It is further divided into wholesale trade and retail trade. Wholesale trade. In wholesale trade, goods are purchased in large quantity directly from producers and sold to the retailers. For example, a wholesaler may purchase thousands of notebooks from a manufacturing company and supply them to different stationery shops. So remember, wholesalers buy in bulk and sell to retailers. Second is retail trade. Retail trade is the final stage in the distribution process. Retailers purchase goods from wholesalers and sell them directly to consumers in small quantities. For example, the local supermarket, medical store or stationery shop where we buy products are example of retail trade. So remember, retailers sell directly to consumers. Now let's move to external trade. External trade refers to trade between two or more countries. When goods across the national boundaries, it becomes external trade. External trade is of three types: import, export, and inter-import. First, we can discuss about import. Import means purchasing goods from another country. For example, if India buys crude oil from Saudi Arabia, it is called import. So, import is equal to buying from other countries. Export. Export means selling goods to another country. For example, when India sells spices, tea, or software services to foreign countries, it is export trade. So, export is selling to other countries. Next is entry port trade. It is a very important topic for exam. Entry port trade is a special type of external trade where a country imports goods from one country and then re-export those goods to another country without significant processing. In simple words, the country acts as a middleman. For example, Singapore imports goods from one country and then exports them to another country, acting as an international trading hub. So, import plus re-export is entry port trade. Now let's move on to the next topic, aids to trade. Aids to trade are activities that facilitate trade by overcoming barriers in the exchange process. Without these auxiliaries, trade, especially across long distance, would be slow, risky, and inefficient. The first is transport and communication. It removes transportation, it removes the barriers of distance, moving goods from producer side to the market. Next is communication. It connects buyers and sellers via telephone, internet, and postal services. The next is banking and financing. It removes the barriers of finance. provide credits, loans, and financial service for the business operations and expansions. Next is insurance. It removes the barriers of risk. It protects goods and business assets from loss caused by fire, theft, or accident. Next is warehousing. It removes the barriers of time, stores goods safely until they are needed, ensuring continuous supply even when production is seasonal. Next is advertising. It removes the barriers of information, informs and persuades customers about products and services, driving awareness and increase sales. Students, today we learned the complete classification of business activities. Remember this simple formula. Industry produces and commerce distributes. Understanding this concept will make many future chapters easier. If you found this session helpful, please like, share and subscribe to Concept-Wise Learning Hub. Clear concepts for smarter study. Thank you for watching. See you in the next class.